Hi. Hello. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Hi, Elegner. Hey, J Swan. Hi, Ilben. You guys are in for a treat because I have a special guest, and she's a celebrity in her very own right. So welcome to the Becky Brown Girl Show. I am your host, Becky Brown Girl, and as I said, I have a very special guest. She's the most special guest because if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here. Um, so let me see if she's on, and you know, invite her to join me. All right, what's happening here? I am good. Web burn to what? I don't know what that says. Hi.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
Um, so welcome to the Becky Brown Girl Show.
Thank you.
Um, this is my favorite girl in the whole entire world. My beloved mama, who out with I wouldn't be here. Y'all know what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
Anyway, um,
that's my baby girl. I love her.
so today's topic is dumb kids. We talking about them kids. It's back to school week. I've been seeing everybody post pictures of their beautiful minis and littles heading back for a new school year. And so the topic of, parenting and them kids was on my mind. So specifically, we wanted to talk about different parenting styles and which, I mean, parenting is a very personal um, thing, right? And the way you parent your children is determined a lot by your environment and um, uh, the way your own parents raised you. Um, Determined by morals, beliefs, yada yada yada, right? So but I think everybody sort of universally has a particular objectives in raising their kids. So, first to love them, guide them, protect, provide, um you and to get them successfully to adulthood so that they can, then move forward and proliferate uh, future generations and keep the bloodline going. And so that's kind of the goal of that, right? But
Yes.
but so you know what, you I hear a little feedback on your end. Like I can hear feedback. Maybe I don't know if it's too close to you there. Um,
Um, let's
maybe.
see.
In any case,
Is that better?
maybe.
Or is it worse?
No, no, no. I feel like it's better and I can hear you. I just
Okay.
don't know
Cool.
how it sounds to the people.
No, it
But
sounds fine to me.
okay. So in any case, I wanted to I wanted to talk about, like I said, some differences between the way our parents raised us, our parents, those of us who are Gen Xers, and maybe, the kids that we're raising, because the Gen Z is, our babies, right?
Exactly.
Um, and how we went from sort of the tough love style, like, you it's like survival of the fittest, like the Hunger Games, to this gentle parenting phenomenon, and how it may wanting to do the most for our children, and every generation wants their children to do better than they did. How sometimes giving them more and not necessarily requiring more of them to obtain that does them a disservice, or at least that's might be my perspective. But I like, besides my mom, I would also like others to weigh in on, what their methods of parenting, maybe rewarding, disciplining, yada yada yada. And yeah, now I'm not professing to be an expert. I'm not a child psychologist. I'm not a counselor, not a therapist. But I am a parent of a son, who I think me and his dad have done a pretty good job so far, getting him to adulthood or young adulthood. So hopefully we'll continue in that regard. But in any case, I've said enough. I'm gonna let my mother introduce herself, and then we can talk a little bit more about these excuse me, different parenting styles, and what she thinks, and what I think. Oh, you can hear. He said he can hear a lot of feedback. Maybe the volume is up too high on your
Oh, okay. That's possible. Is that better?
uh is that better? Is that better, Peach Shinnery Photo? I think that might be better.
Okay. I want to make sure that I can hear you. So I did have it up loud, but because the phone is not close to me. But anyway, I can hear you, and so I'll introduce myself. My name is Gwendolyn. Everyone calls me
You don't have to tell him your whole government name. You don't have to tell him your whole government name.
Okay. Thank you. So people refer to me as Mama G, all of Stacy's friends. And I've got to say, I've got the best daughter in the world. Of course, I'm objective, very objective. And she and her baby daddy, they've done an excellent job of raising their son. I sometimes wonder how they've been able to do it and do such a great job. I don't know whether he was just born the best kid ever, or whether they contributed to that just by being spectacular parents and listening and talking. But my philosophy is that I think that from the time that children are able to understand you, if you give them a lot of love, you cherish them, you provide and protect them, that they will listen to you when you're talking about structure and you're talking about the right and the wrong of doing things. And so I tell stories all the time about how I just sort of had to look at BeckyBrownGurl or her brother, and they knew that it was time for them to sit still, be quiet, talk, walk. I mean, literally. I didn't have to take the big switch and beat anyone. I didn't have to do that because there was a clear understanding from childhood that they needed to respect me. They needed to basically follow my lead. And if they did that, the perks were great. It wasn't about spoiling them. It was about teaching them that there are rewards for everything. And so I think that if you treat them well and they in turn respect you, that then you can take them on the trips, the movies, the plays, the theater, whatever is accessible to you. And you do that because you're trying to educate them about the world and what it has to offer, but also because they've been doing the right things. I mean, I remember on Saturday mornings when my mother specifically would have us get up, and every Saturday was cleaning day, and we had to wash the baseboards in the living room and the dining room. And I remember that, and I thought it was so silly, but what it taught me was discipline. And so my mother was a very no-nonsense person. I like to think of myself as a no-nonsense person. I don't believe that children should rule their parents. Rather, I think that parents should be in control of what their children are doing, because everyone doesn't think your child is cute. Everyone does not want to hear your child's mouth or the mouthing off to you and you simply smiling and thinking that it's okay. So that's always been my philosophy. Granted, there are extenuating circumstances. If you happen to have a child who has some learning disability or some other infirmity, well, of course, your approach is going to be different. But I believe that if you show them love and care, you're there for them, you listen to them, in turn, they will listen to you. And so that's my approach.
Um, no. Yes, I would second that that was her approach with me. I didn't, I wasn't spanked. I do remember I do remember a couple times. I'm not gonna bring up. I was a little bit older though, and I probably, deserved the punishment that I received. But in any event, um, but
I never
so
said I didn't spank you.
well, I don't remember. Well, no, this was anyway. Without getting
But
too
but
specific,
I did always tell you and your brother that you may have been bigger than me, but I could get on the table.
I know, and
Do you
you didn't know karate, but you knew crazy. Yeah, I know that one as well.
exactly?
Um, so, but I feel like, again, like I started off saying earlier, and I don't just sort of want to talk about the disciplinary aspect, but again, I feel like, the Gen X generation, I see, a lot of memes and things talking about how, basically, again, we were like, we spent all day outdoors, we drank from the water hose, riding bikes to Timbuktu. There were no cell phones. Um, you didn't wear helmets. You didn't have knee pads. Your parents just, sent you out, and hopefully you knew to show up, when the lights came on. And, I think the one thing that I think might be distinctive about, that era compared with this one also is that I think there was maybe more um, connectivity among neighbors, and
Yes.
maybe that may be the case in certain communities, but I think other parents were also watching, what the kids were doing. So if even if your own parent wasn't watching you, if you were doing the wrong thing, then they'd report back to your parent, what
Absolutely.
what you were doing. And so there wasn't sort of this hands-off approach of like, that ain't my kid, I don't want to be bothered, I don't want to get involved. Which I think has, it has its pros and and its cons, I guess, because it depends on who's watching, right?
That's right.
And I feel like we live in a different, obviously we live in a different time, right?
Right.
But as far as, the Gen Zers by comparison, and again, I'm not like meaning to say this is like a bad thing necessarily, but today's children, or the children coming up of age in this generation, have access to a lot more information,
Yes.
than we did through social media. They're exposed to a lot more at a younger age. Um, and and it's they're sort of being pulled from so many different um, um, ways and influences beyond, whatever they're getting in the home. So yes, you can instill certain values and morals and lessons in your children at home, but there's just like limitless exposure, and so yes, you have to take a different approach maybe in terms of what you make accessible to them. But at the same time, if you shelter them too much, when they go out into the real world, they can potentially run amok, or they're like
Exactly.
overwhelmed by what they're being exposed to. I think exposure should um, be proportional to their maturity level. I think it should be proportional to their age. I think it should be proportional to, their level of responsibility. That's, just my take on it. Um, I think each generation desires to give their children more than what they have, like I said in the beginning. And so you sometimes run the risk of, if you're well off, you have a lot of resources, and your children think everything comes easily, money is growing on trees, and they've not sort of been through a struggle, that they could potentially develop a sense of entitlement as adults, and think that
Yes.
everything just sort of comes easily to them. Like I even hear, um, some young folk uh, that I work with, like talking about internships, and how um, like like they're getting paid, kind of minimum wages for internship opportunities. I'm like, we didn't get paid for no internship. Like, are you serious right now? So it's not that they have to suffer. It's that I feel like they should understand the value of things, so they appreciate them.
Right.
Um, in the way that we were taught to appreciate certain things. So, those are just kind of some of my opinions on parenting. Like I'm curious if anyone on the call has a son and a daughter. Do you think you parent them differently? Do you think you raise them differently? I think some of the like you'll see a lot of of women, complain about the pool of men available in the dating pool. But I've also seen, some people be of the opinion that, like, some mothers, because some of these boys might not have a male influence in their life, are basically babying their sons. They're not teaching them to be, you know, men and independent, and in the way that they raise their daughters. So that's why I'm kind of curious as to whether people think that they parent um their young men and young women differently. I only have a son, so I can only speak, and he's an only child.
Well, having had both, um, I probably was easier on you. You may not think so, but certainly there were things that I taught you that I didn't necessarily focus on with your brother, and not because I wanted it to make it easier for you, but I wanted him as a young Black man to go out into the world and be self-sufficient, capable, educated, and ready for the world, for what the world had to throw at him. There may be some others who do it differently. And certainly what I've found a lot of times is, and this is not always the case, but sometimes when men, I feel, have just boys, they don't always understand how you should approach the guys compared to how you approach your daughters. I mean, you can't be, you can't have your son running the streets willy-nilly and the daughter is sequestered in her bedroom. You can't do that. It's not fair. And again, it doesn't teach them both independence and how to act in the real world. So, but I'd be interested in hearing what other people think as well.
So, Mr. Barry has joined us.
I
So Mr. Barry,
said,
introduce yourself to the people, please.
oh, hi, everybody. I have the great, actually, this lady has the very distinct honor of being my first friend on Facebook. She may not realize that, but that is true.
Oh,
Many years
wow.
ago, because I was her wonderful son Darius's kindergarten teacher many years ago, and I started my 26th year today in the classroom, and still miraculously, by the grace of God, still have the energy and the excitement and the joy of looking at 21, 5, and well, there's one 6-year-old in there. Big.
Uh-oh. Oh no. I don't know what happened. I think he might have accidentally kicked himself off, or he's frozen. Okay, well, hopefully he's gonna sort that out. So, Mom, you can finish your thoughts.
Okay. So, and speaking about Mr. Barry, I'd just like to say I'm glad as an educator he's joined the live, because I got to tell you that this guy is amazing. I mean, I met him when he was Darius's kindergarten teacher, as he said, and Darius is now a senior in college. He has been in our lives this whole time. He's always been supportive, and he's like that with all of his children. I remember going to his classroom and reading books to the kindergarten kids at the time that my grandson was in his class. This man cares about children, and I've always said that every little boy, I don't care if you're black, white, green, or pink, should have this man as your kindergarten teacher, because he is phenomenal. And he's phenomenal because he cares. He tells the truth. He treats the girls like he treats the boys, and he follows up with all of them from the time they're in his class, especially through graduation from high school. So I just want to say that about him. And the interesting thing is he doesn't have any sons. So he's a great father, and I think he's got a lot to contribute to this discussion. And so I hope and pray that he's able to join us again.
Yeah, I try to because I can't, like, if I remove him, he won't be able to come back at all. I don't know why.
Okay. I'm hoping that his phone didn't die, that it wasn't charged, and he's got to wait for it to get charged.
Ooh. All right. Well, so anyway, I see a few folks I know on here. Kimani, Fritz. I think I saw another Stacy. So, okay. Sean, do you want to join? He said he's tougher on his son than he was on his daughter, which is what I expect that most men would say. And then conversely, I feel like, again, I've heard some people say, like, to have daughters, that they sort of more raise their daughters, and and that they're kind of babying their sons. Now, in my case, as I said, because I only have my beloved number one sunshine.
Stacey, I'm sorry for interrupting you. Jeff says he's on. I think that's him. So do you have to send him another request?
I'll try. I don't know if it's gonna work, but if not, then I might have to I don't know, because he's just
There we go.
Better. Yeah. I don't know what was happening. But
technology is not our friend sometimes. But anyway, boy, I got 2 for one night tonight. I get Miss Gwen on as well. Hi, Miss Gwen. I heard what you were saying. I gotta say, you're really generous with the words. I gotta say, thank you for those.
I only tell the truth.
So Mr. B is our all-time favorite teacher of my son. So hence the reason that so many years later he was my son's kindergarten teacher, that we are still in touch. But again, I think I said earlier, or maybe I didn't say, my disclaimer is I'm not an expert, I'm not a counselor, a therapist, I'm not a child psychologist, but I'm a parent. So I'm just sharing my opinion and hope others will share their opinion. However, Mr. Barry does have expertise, because, as he said earlier, he has been teaching for 26 years. So he's seen, now he teaches kindergarten, so he's getting, the kids early when they're still sort of moldable. But I'm sure you've observed different kinds of, parenting styles
Oh,
and behavioral styles and how it impacts the kids in your classroom.
I witnessed one yesterday that was interesting, and I won't give names or anything, but just some parents that right to my face told me that, and it was an hour-long meet and greet just to come in and sort of see the room, and the little girl was pinned to her father's leg, barely even showed her face, and the mother was like, literally said to me, "Yeah, she's a real pain in the ass sometimes." I'm like, oh. Oh my gosh. Hello, how do you, and your name is? Okay.
By the way, or sometimes. I mean, although that's an awkward, introduction, but
It really was. It kind of, I was just like, come on, we're going to start that way? I mean, come on. All right. Most people hold their cards, a little bit, but you're going to show me all your cards right now?
All right. The thing is that some people, again, like I started to say before you came on, I was talking about how, back in the Gen X era, our parents basically put us outside and it in the warm months, right? And I feel like we had a certain level, or perhaps there was more expectation of us having a certain level of independence. Like in certain ways, children today are expected to, I think more independently. I think our parents from that era were more like, do as I say, and there was less expectation that you were like sort of free thinking and that you were going to come up with your own punishments. No, like if you're in trouble, go to the corner, get a switch, get a belt, get a shoe, get a shot top or whatever, and get your beating.
It wasn't abuse, it was discipline. It was like carried through discipline that made you like not usually, unless you got really good at being sneaky, which oftentimes I was. I had a brother that wasn't very sneaky, and he got in trouble like so much. Doug got in some trouble all the time. And he crashed a couple cars, and he just really gave my parents. But I will say this: I think the thing with my parents that they instilled me to be as a dad, because again, it is a different time. I remember as a really young, maybe even a kindergartner, going out that door maybe on a Saturday, and mom just saying like, "Be home by dinner," not like
exactly.
I mean, it was really, we were young when we were able to have a lot of freedom to kind of just go, but just be home by dinner. And
exactly.
I couldn't even do that with my kids. I was like, no, I'm not letting you out of my sight.
Now I remember my grandparents used to live like a few blocks away within walking distance of the home I grew up in, and
what a gift that was to have that relationship with your grandparents.
No, it absolutely was. But I remember even up until even though I did the going outside, riding the bikes and whatever, my brother is, I have an older brother, but he's older enough. He's 6 years older than me that like at a certain point he was out of the house and it was just me. So, my mom was like, go to your grandparents' house after school, even when I was in high school. And I was like, really? Like, come on. Like, I think it wasn't until I was like a junior in high school that she would let me, go home.
And when did you do that for Darius?
Exactly.
I mean, is that a touche or what?
No, but you know what?
It's a big touche.
I know. Hold on. I know legally. I know that legally you can't leave your children alone like under a certain age. But also, I just wouldn't have felt comfortable, even though as responsible as Darius has been, always he listens. Like he wasn't. I'm not saying he's perfect. Obviously, no child is perfect, but like he listened. Like I didn't worry about what he was going to do if he was going to be doing something different than what we told him to do. If that was the case, I probably would have taken a different approach to him. But as
he gave you indications that he was a responsible teenager.
Yes.
And if there's red flags popping up all over the place, you're probably not going to do that. But because he over time gave you the perceived perception that he was going to be trustworthy and he was going to do the right thing. Hey, listen to this. I've heard my father, good parenting is all about learning how to let go of your kids. Whether it's the first step, whether it's that first day of kindergarten. Trust me, I had a couple of crying parents the other day. I mean, and 80% of them are brand new to this kindergarten thing. And, but it's all about learning how to let go of your kids and let them go and fail and make mistakes and also succeed, and trying not to be a helicopter parent, which so many, kids are. It's tricky. There's no right way and wrong way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of wrong ways to do it for sure. But I think if you consistently lead with love and you just learn to kind of let them go, let them make some mistakes, that's how you learn. We made mistakes, and I tell you what, I'm so grateful that my parents gave me the wiggle room and I made some whoppers. Well, I won't tell you what they were, but I got a few whoppers in my closet, and my parents still were there for me.
I think part of it is also wanting to ensure. Mom, can you try turning it down a little bit, because I'm still hearing that feedback. I don't know if you guys in the like comments.
Is that better?
I think so.
I'm gonna mute myself because I think I have a little fan going on. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say, like, before you came on, I was talking about how as far as the levels of like letting go should be proportional to the children's demonstration that they can handle responsibility. Like, yeah, there's certain aspects of, like, my son's generation that I admire. I admire that they're like more non-conformist. They don't feel like I have to go out into, the traditional corporate world to make a living. Like, I feel like they have sort of more of an entrepreneurial spirit, which I admire. However, I also think a lot of that is fueled by what they see on social media, because they think you can make money quickly until they, get a dose of reality. And if they don't have the safety net of their parents, then they find out real fast, like, yeah, that works for some people, but that's not sort of the standard across the board. And so I would never want to be a dream killer. I want there to be a certain dose of reality. So I try to be the one who's like, encouraging and speaking the life, with like a little sprinkle of reality, because dad is all real all the time. he loves him, but he's always going to keep it like too real for my taste. And I'm like, I mean, man, could you, like, don't be a dream killer. So don't do that. But at the same time, I also feel like another thing that I had mentioned was that every generation, you want your kids to ideally do better than what you did. More educated, more successful, happier. Of course, you want, like, success is defined differently depending on, who is speaking about it, right? So it's not just about financial and material things. It's about, like, oh, are you overall a happy, healthy, person? Did I raise a good human being? Are you caring? Are you compassionate? Are you good to people? Like, and everybody's barometer of success is different, right? But damn it, I lost my train of thought.
If I may just jump in there, I think a lot of people, though, do measure success by what's in your bank. And I think it's a really slippery slope when you do that.
I agree, because sometimes people do, a lot of, speaking of a slippery slope, they do a lot of, bad things to, sort of, like, by any means necessary. And if you raised, the child with a certain sort of moral code, and then they go off and do something, that kind of goes against that, is that your fault? Or
I did that a few times. I did that a few
at
times,
what
and I'm
point does it
grateful that my parents,
become
God bless them wherever they are. I know where they are, but God bless them for being the parents they were. That's all I'll say. I don't know, and that's the kind of parenting that I want to try to be for my girls. We've had a whopper or two with my 3 girls, and but they've all had. It's just part of, but just parenting is a minefield. It's a wickedly populated minefield that are just every day you're wondering, if there's something you do, but you still gotta just love them, and you just gotta try to be there for them, and now and again, you're sort of getting there with Darius, with him turning into a young adult. All my girls have, we've gone through all those teen years and all those little. I mean, I would make a joke to people that I see. I see a frustrated dad with like a little child who's crying, and he's got the stroller and all of. And I go up to him. I just say, "This is the easy part."
right, because you have 100% control over what they're doing.
That's correct.
But when they go off on their own, it's just
watch my girls go out into the night and see their boyfriends, and they're gonna usually. I just like, oh God, please. It's hard. You know this, Gwen. You got a daughter. You know.
I know.
Oh,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I drive her crazy, but it's a lot of praying that the lessons you taught them when they were young, will carry them over into adulthood. And also, like, I know I didn't do everything right. Like, I actually had asked him, to think about things that he would wish I had done differently, me and his dad. And he hasn't come back to me yet. I was like, I want you to be honest. Like, I won't beat you. No, because, as an adult, I would hope that we could have an open line of communication. I mean, I try to. I want him to feel like he can come and talk to both of us about anything. But I know that he probably has more of a relationship like that with me.
You hope that's certainly our hope, but you also know that you don't want to know everything.
I mean, not everything, but if I want him to feel comfortable coming to me for advice, and certain things I think his dad is better suited to provide him advice on. And the other thing that I want to say, I feel like that is unique for raising a young Black man is, his dad is from New York. I mean, he grew up in like a home, parents married, blah blah blah, but and he grew up in like a residential community, but it's still a totally different world than the community that Darius grew up in the suburbs. And I used to say to him when so he's a lot more street savvy, right? Just by virtue of, being a New Yorker and just like, again, New York and the time we grew up in and so on and so on. And so I always used to say to him, like, well, how will we teach him to have that like instinct? How will we teach him to have that street savvy? Not that he's gonna be hanging out in the streets, but again, as a young Black man, he's going to have exposure to, all different sorts of people in different environments. And if you look like an easy mark and you're in the wrong sort of environment, I'm not saying that, there is not crime elements in all races of people. I'm saying it's a unique challenge, I feel like, because I feel like Black men are measured, like how manly they are is measured by whether they can navigate in all these different circles. I don't think that issue is the same for a white man. I might be wrong. I don't think so. So, he was like, he's not, and my son is not a thug. He's not a fighter, and I wouldn't want him to be. I just don't want him to be unaware. I want him to have enough like savvy to know to be able to navigate in any sort of environment and feel comfortable, or sense if he's in an environment that he probably shouldn't be in. But I think that's an instinct that you don't have growing up in the suburbs. I think it's an instinct that you have from growing up in a city environment. And and then there's also the talk, element, like, the whole, like, how you interact with the police, and that conversation, which unfortunately, is a conversation that we have to have. And which
I'm really deeply saddened how far back we've gone. I mean, I thought we were making some real progress for many years there in terms of racism is always going to be a place, but I really thought it was declining, and these last few years have just really proved me wrong on that. And I really feel for young, all African American men who they do have a burden on them that I will never know. And
even as a woman, it's not the same for me.
I'm sure. And I just want to. Somebody said to me that the difference in our and every human being is something like less than 1% in terms of our DNA. I mean, we've got these differences in skin differences and hair, but in terms of our humanoid like similarities, we're apparently like 99% the same. And our DNA, these little tiny little things in the DNA that just give us a little, and they also what makes us unique and beautiful and whatnot. But for some stupid reason, people seem to think that skin color is the most telling thing about a person, and it still galls me that there are people that are walking around us that still feel like they are better than somebody, or they feel like, instead of just looking at the flat out humanity of another person. Now, when it gets into the behavior of that person, if they're acting like an asshole, then guess what? They're an asshole.
Exactly.
But the whole thing is that, again, that is going back to the parenting topic. It's a factor of the way they're being raised and the way they're being nurtured and the way, their environment. So maybe their parents, the parents of those children, or the parents' parents, and it's just, a generational passing it down, and like, it's never going to go away. That is never going to go away. Also, the, like, I don't see color conversation, which is not what I think you were saying. That's also not a thing. Like, we are, so as much as we are similar, like you said, beneath it all, we're different, and that's okay. But the problem is that everybody doesn't think it's okay. Like, we don't, people can't accept what they don't want to understand, what they don't, they want to maintain separation and yada, 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 yada. But
So
again,
true.
that's a whole another conversation. I just wanted to, to point out, because again, I do have a son, that particular aspect of parenting him has been, challenging, especially given all of the, police killings that have happened in the last few years. And like, it was very worrisome. Like, he's gotten pulled over a couple times. I mean, his, driving record is good, so he's never had an issue. But I mean, I worry, like, as any parent would worry, but I feel like it's just another layer of,
Well, one of the things that I want to say, sort of getting back to that parenting issue, is that I think that, again, these are lessons that parents need to give their children when they're young. They just like how they behave, what they're responsible for, what their roles are in the household, what their contributions to the household are. All those things should be taught as early as possible. And when they are, the children, and all children, have more opportunities to thrive and survive. this whole thing of treating anyone less than for any reason is ridiculous. And I think that if you could think of one sort of Sunday school or Bible school lesson that would change a lot of things in this world, including how children are disciplined, is treat other people like you want to be treated. And I don't care whether that's in school, I don't care if that's at home when you're training them, I don't care if that's when the children go out in the world, I don't care if that's when you're in corporate America, I don't care if that's when you're the president. If you treat people how you want to be treated, then you're going to get a better world. The problem is that people don't want to do that. They don't want to do that with their children when they're disciplining them, because their children are better, their children are cuter. Let them do what they want in the house, let them run amok, but then take them into the supermarket and you suddenly expect them to act differently. That's ridiculous. And so I think that the discipline thing that I talked about, when I first started, I think is critical in families. I don't care if it's girls or boys. Everyone has a role to play wherever they are. Teach them that role from the very beginning and make it clear. And also, when those roles are not fulfilled, you start to take away things that they crave, love, whatever, I don't even know what they call these things, PlayStations, phones, cars, whatever it is that they have that they want, you start to take those things away. And as a young child, you take away a lot of things that they like, their laptop, the TV, their dog, their cat, whatever it is. And parents are not willing to do that. And you know why? Because they want those things for themselves.
No, well, because that's what I was going to say. And then I want Sean to chime in, but the kids really quickly, and this is like that in the vein of the gentle parenting phenomenon, that they give children more input. I think, look, parents aren't always right. Just because you're older, just because you have more experience, just because you are the authority figure, doesn't yes, that does not make you right all the time, Mom. I mean, but I wouldn't have been able to say that. I wouldn't have been able to say that as a child because, but I'm saying in this era, I think parents with younger children are allowing their kids to express themselves more. Now, even again, when we were raising my beloved, I would talk to him more. And when he got a little bit older, he tried to raise up once or twice, but his dad was like, all he had to do was bug them eyes. It was But anyway, so Sean, introduce yourself to the people, and he has a son and a daughter, so I wanted to get his take on the difference.
So Stacey, do you want me to log off?
No, you can stay.
No, okay.
I'll let you know when you gotta go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean. I have a 25 and a 22-year-old. So I was harder on my son than my daughter because I knew that he had to go out in the world and face the world head on, especially with my son. I told him what he had to do, and he had to meet my expectations. Like, I recently had a talk with him. I told him that I was cutting all his financial, I was cutting off all his money because, look, he always came to me and said, look, I need pops. I forgot my wallet. But he's going out. He's going out with women all the time. He's going out getting drinks. He had his car towed. I said, look, I'm not supplying you any more money. You're a man now. At 22, I was doing everything my own. I knew I raised him to be able to handle things. I'm not raising a I'm not raising a woman. I'm raising a man. So that's what I told him.
And
You
so
know,
what?
like,
So what did you do differently with your daughter then?
well, you know, my daughter. This is the thing. My daughter, when I dropped off at college, she told me I'm independent when I'm at college, but I'm dependent when I'm home. So I told her, I said, no, you're gonna be dependent, gonna be independent both. But I also told her that I believe in it. I built them up in order to know that they could survive on their own. But I also didn't take any mess with them. I didn't do any talking back. He didn't talk back to me. You know, what I said went, and, you know, it wasn't no debating. I didn't do any debating. I didn't care what your friends said, anything else. What I said goes, you know, like it wasn't anything like nothing we had to debate about.
So
You know,
so you didn't do so did you do timeouts? Or
I don't do timeouts. I don't believe in timeouts. I don't believe in leashes. I don't believe in timeouts. If you don't, you know, if you don't do what I say, you know, I pay. I'm the boss.
look,
This,
look,
this is a dictator. This a dictatorship here.
I don't like this getting called on anybody, so you don't have to reveal too much. I'm just,
Uh,
I'm just saying.
what'd you say?
I said I don't want Dyfus getting called on anybody, so you don't have to say too much. Because, nowadays they'll cancel you for
I
anything.
don't care. I don't care about camp being canceled, but you know, like, and like my daughter, she came home. She told me no man tells her what to do. One time, she came home from college. I said that's mighty funny, because a man pays for everything that you got. I said
I
a
mean,
man a man paying for your tuition, paying for your meal plan, paying for your hygiene products, everything, paying for your nails,
but you're
everything. So
different. But that's our job. I mean, we still have to
I
so
know.
at one point. No, no, no. You know what? The other thing I think is different now that we're
I
on
like
that
this guy.
topic. Talking about raising
I like him too.
talking about raising like younger or young adults, right? I think
Hmm.
another thing that was different back in the day is the expectation was at a certain age you got out of the house. Now, I don't necessarily think that.
I had to leave.
What'd you say?
I left at 17. I ain't been back.
But I don't. But the thing is, I don't necessarily think that's the best approach. I think that approach is dependent on the child. Now,
It is.
I I don't think that you should be raising your children to be dependent. And to the point I made like early on, like my mom was saying, I think giving them responsibilities so that they're earning an allowance or whatever, not just giving them money and giving them everything they ask for that they didn't earn, so they have no understanding of the value of money, right? So then they just think when they get to be an adult, it's falling from the sky and it's easy to make, and you snap your fingers and you have money in your account. Like they don't have the same relationship with money. They don't see the value in it because they didn't work for it.
Oh, I
And I think,
ain't believe in allowance.
oh, so you were saying
I'm
that
just
you did
being.
chores and you didn't give them nothing.
No, your allowance is living up under the roof. I'm just being honest with you. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like this. My son did. I bought my son basically whatever he needed. But I remember he got some exclusive Jordans, and his grades were bad, and I took him back. I took him off his feet.
And he
So
and he
you know, if I called him right now, he would tell you my dad does not play.
wait, we can't see you. Okay.
But he loves you to death, though, Sean.
Yeah,
I
he
know he
does.
loves you to death
When I tell you, he tells me every intimate detail about his life, his
because
dating life.
you're the man.
He,
You're the man he wants to be.
I mean, I told him to be better than me, but like he went to, he had his internship at Disney on the Yard, and he excelled, and now his interview is all over all the HBCUs all over the nation. So
Awesome.
Wow. Congratulations.
yeah, so thank you. So yeah, so he's going to a professional internship. So we talked about like Stacy said, some of the interns from Howard and all over were complaining about the amount of money they were making. And I told him it's not about the money, it's about the experience. He told them the same thing. So a lot of them were trying to quit because of the money. It's not about the money. It's about the experience. You
Yeah, because they have
know.
they have no concept of like working hard to obtain, and I don't want to like make a blanket statement about all kids of that generation. My son is of that generation, but he wasn't raised like that, and he understands the value of money, and he understands like, you know, like you work hard to obtain the things you want. And even though like you know, his dad didn't want him getting a job while he was in school. Like he has done a few internships, but you know, he's like, I need money, I want money. And he started his own business. You know, he does photography and videography, so
So does
he's
my
got his
son.
business. But you know, he wants consistent income, and he obviously has other responsibilities. So I think because he wants to ensure that he's first and foremost focused on his education while we're paying for him to go to school, which yes, it is important. But at the same time, he needs the experience because look, I hire interns, and I hire some of these kids sometimes coming out of school, and or I'm involved in them being hired, and their resumes are very impressive. Like they have lots of experience, and not just because they worked at some pizza shop or whatever, but like they did a lot of stuff. So they're missing their because they're so focused on the financial piece of it, they're missing the benefit of gaining the experience, which again is something for us. There was no like getting paid to do an internship. Like you were
Exactly.
working for free and you were working for that experience.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying exactly. I remember a story. I wanted some uniforms to play football at Rec League. My grandfather took me to the forestry department to pick up cans. It wasn't for the money. It was for the experience of working for $1. And if like it's hot during the summertime. So, and that's how I remember making, valuing $1. And I told my son, I said, look, that's how you make it. I said, you cut grass, you pressure wash people's houses, but you work for what you want. Nothing in life is free.
That's right.
If it's easy, it's not worth it. So, and that's what a lot of people,
right.
Exactly. So,
Exactly.
So that's why I cut his money off. Now it's time for him to earn it. Because he got his, no, he wasn't salty because he got his car towed going to the club. Called me at 1:00 in the morning. So what I do, I got up, went downstairs, ate some cereal, watched some TV. I took my time before I sent. It was $100, so I sent him $80. I told him to figure it out how to get the rest. I think it was $120.
Dude, you need to write a book.
I told him to figure out. I was just about to say that it's excellent.
I mean, hey, that's how I had to figure. I had to figure out in life. I had a few lean years raising kids, but you know what? They figure out, oh, daddy has money. Daddy has this. Daddy can do this. Well, guess what? It's daddy money. This is not your money.
Right. But
well, you know what? The other thing that shows about you, Sean is your name, right? Yeah. Okay. Sean, is that you have humility. And your son he doesn't see that as humility right now, but ultimately he's going to see that. Because basically, if the situation was reversed and you had to figure out that $20, you may have to ask someone else, but you're going to humble yourself with the idea that you'll probably have to pay that other person back. I don't know if you told your son you have to pay him back. But the thing is it's not just I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to make you suffer, but I'm also going to make you more humble. So I agree with Jeff. You need to write a book because I co-signed everything that you said. I mean, not that I did it like that necessarily. I wasn't as smart as you are, but I tell you, I'm really impressed with you.
Because my mom, she doesn't agree when I do it. I tell her, oh, well. I said, because she was worse. I mean, I can't. She was worse. I mean, I had to pay her every time I got paid. I didn't make them pay, like, but she made me pay money every time. And I see people saying, well, give your kids back the money. I didn't get any money back, and I mean, but it made me appreciate it, humbled me, I'm like, and when I told him what I did, he said, you're right, I appreciate it. He said, I'll read the sign next time. I said, when your
Dude, my mother
Exactly.
did the same to me. She charged me to live
yeah,
at home, like $200 a month
exactly, exactly. And I was
Wow.
like, exactly. I'm
after
like,
college.
shoot. And see, my mom gave my brother everything, and it took him. He just got off the breastfeeding like 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I was telling her, I was like, look, so but he's a professor at Spelman now though, because I used to get on to her about way she did everything there. I was like, look, like Stacey said, I used to go out there, get him off the kindergarten bus, everything. That's when I grew up with Wayne Williams. Like when he was going around Southwest Atlanta. So but my brother, if his head wasn't screwed on, he would lose it. So so I mean, so that's why I tell my kids to do certain things, in order to achieve certain things. My little cousin, she just asked me, she said, well, I'm tired of my mom getting on to me, say I need to be further on in life. I said, well, you should be. You're 26. You sit at home. I told you not to have a kid, and you had the kid. You didn't have a car. I
Wow.
said, so
Well, see,
You,
and so again, so this is again one of the things that I we touched on a little bit earlier was like sort of tough love parenting, because nobody, like, a lot of parents don't want to be the bad guy nowadays. They want to be the kid's friend.
I'm the
Um,
bad guy.
say hello to the bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like,
yes.
I
They love you
definitely
for it,
don't.
though.
I don't play the bad guy role, but I also have to say that sometimes that would create conflict between me and his dad. Particularly when we were together, because I would want to like intervene, in the disciplining, because I thought he's generally a good kid. I felt like the disciplining was OD, but we would talk on the side and be like united front. And then he'd give me
Exactly.
that look, and I would be cringing on the inside, like, not my babe. But but I learned to like fall back. And then, when he was somewhere, crying or whatever, I'd go give him a hug, and he's like, and just reassure him, like, you know, we love you, and but we just want whatever. Cause I'm like, don't be mean to my baby.
oh,
Trying
that's
to,
funny.
but I'm also not trying to raise him to be soft, and like, oh, and that's another thing I wanted to touch on is like, I think another thing I think that's good about kids from the Gen Z era is I think they have more compassion in a certain regard than, but I think they're exposed to a lot more different types of people, um, and we understand like a lot of stuff that we went through when we were younger. Like, we was traumatized, but nobody was there like coddling you. They were like, suck it up. So I think we might be a little tougher, but on the inside, we probably all need therapy. But these younger kids are like so in
That's what
touch with
this
their
is, though. This
emotions.
is therapy right now.
But
Yeah,
these older kids are like, I mean, these younger kids, these Gen Z, are like, so everything is emotions, and constantly talking about emotions, and it's like, OD. Like, all right, now y'all got to get, like, you got to learn how to control that. You can't just, you know what I mean? Like, it's too much. There has to be balance between, like, toughening up, and then like being able to express your emotions in a healthy and productive way, not like having a meltdown every time, unless there's some other underlying issue. But like, if there isn't, to being able to regulate um your emotions, because the world doesn't revolve around you. And I think when they go out into, I think it's wonderful to build your child up and affirm them and tell them how great and smart and beautiful and amazing they are, because the world is going to tell them otherwise. But at the same time, like, I think when you have such an inflated sense of yourself that you are selfish, then you go out into the world thinking the whole world is going to revolve around you. That ain't how it works. And then when you get a rude awakening, you're like, you know, like, oh my God, like, it doesn't revolve around
Oh my
me.
God.
It sure doesn't.
I'm really an
But what'd you say?
Oh my God, I'm really an asshole.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the irony, right, is that we, these Gen X parents, you know, who think we're so tough, raise these kids, raise some of these punk ass kids.
Yeah, we talk about it. Everybody got a trophy. Nobody got. Boy, this guy Sean, he got it right. He's raising some
Yeah.
great kids, and I really like.
Yeah.
I mean,
I told my neighbor. Go ahead, my bad.
Oh no, old school's really just. I love your approach, man. I really, really do. And Gwen,
Yeah,
just for you to
'cause
follow up with you said that about the golden rule: do unto others as you would. I read that to my kids today. I have a poster that shows that, and I read that to my kids today. It's just
Yes.
that if you can impart that to your kids, to treat people really the way you would like to be treated, you know.
Yes.
Again, until they cross the line, you got to give people the benefit of the doubt, more or less. But you know, I'm just trying to
Yeah, I
get along,
mean,
but normally don't.
it's, you know, it applies in every aspect of life. And that simple phrase, if you keep that in mind, it'll dictate everything you do and how you do it. And it'll teach you discipline,
Yeah,
you know.
it really will.
Well,
So,
and one final thing, you know, I'd like everybody to kind of share a final thought before we wrap up. But damn it, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, well, y'all share your, you know, parting words, because hopefully it'll come back to me while you're talking.
I just want to say this was a great conversation. Thank you for including me. I'm going to try to get on other opportunities to do so. Thank you for setting it up, Stace. You know, we need to talk about this stuff. And again, I think it is, and to a greater or lesser degree, this is therapy, to be able to sit and actually have a conversation and talk about this stuff with, you know, like-minded adults who can give you insight and feedback. And it's important to have these conversations. It really is, because so oftentimes we're just going hither and yon, going, you know, 2,000 miles an hour. We don't stop and just say, let's talk about something important. So thank you for setting it up.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for playing, Mr. B.
Yes, I would.
Okay, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, and I also would like. Hopefully, we can get more people to reach out to their local schools and at least give back and reach out to see if they can donate to the food lockers or any type of lockers that they may have for supplies for the kids, so we can show the kids that we care. I donate to my local school and read to the kids, and so we can just show them that there are different sides of the coin. You know, that's how we can build up and show the kids a different side of life. You know, that's what I have.
That's awesome.
that is awesome. And I like to just say that that I'm thrilled to have been a part of this today. I mean, it's, you know, there's some great parents out there. I've heard from 3 of them tonight. My baby girl, from Jeff, from Sean. You guys rock.
You're on.
And I think,
Gwen.
oh, well, thank you. And I think that, you know, I've got sense enough to know I didn't do everything perfectly. I tried. You know, there is no book about parenting and what is right and what is wrong. But I go back to that statement that if you are fair in life and treat people like you want to be treated, not better than, certainly not worse than, but how you would like to be treated, then I think that will go a long way in teaching your children discipline. And I think discipline, and I don't mean discipline in a negative sense, putting them in the corner or whatever. I'm talking about structure. Maybe that's a better word. Structure for their lives. This is what you expect, and this is what we expect of you. And having said that, Stacy, you're the best daughter I could have ever asked for.
Oh, wow. Hey, Gwen, I just was going to say the word you were, and we use it in school, it's called logical consequences.
Oh.
And it's just like, it's like, hey, well, you did this. Well, guess what? This is your consequence.
Exactly.
And Sean knows that big time. He's really got that down pat. They can't be crazy off the wall consequences for doing something. They got to be logical consequences.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
Stacy, did that thought come back?
What'd you say?
Did that thought come back to you?
It did not. But okay, now Sean, I'm making a lot of noise in the background, so I got to get you out of here.
Sorry about that.
Okay. But before but that's okay. I appreciate all of you guys joining. So so you can see yourself out. Just X yourself out of here.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless you all.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay. Thank
Okay. So once again, thank you to my mama, because oh my mama, oh my hood. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here. So first and foremost, I want to thank her. Thank you, Mr. B, my son's kindergarten teacher, who is our favorite teacher of all of Darius's teachers, although he's had some phenomenal teachers that I'm still in contact with as well. And to Sean for their insight on parenting. I did kind of want to get the perspective of, somebody who does more of the gentle parenting approach. However, I want to wrap this up now. So I don't think there's any one way to parent, or one way that's better or worse. Again, I think it's just about, loving the child, obviously guiding them, listening to the child, because we do not have all the answers and we're not always right. But maintaining structure, and respectfulness, between you and the children, and I guess putting those pieces in place that will hopefully ensure their future success. It doesn't guarantee anything, because you can do everything you think is right, and and it doesn't always work out that way. But we're all sort of learning on the job and doing the best we can as we go. So with that said, keep up the good work, to all the parents and grandparents and godparents and surrogate parents and aunts, uncles, and everybody else and teachers, and everyone else who has influence on the kids, because the kids are our future. Oh, and I love the kids. Yeah, so I, I am signing off, and I will see y'all next Wednesday. Thanks for joining me. Peace to fingers.